Jesus, why does
Okay, good afternoon, all. Welcome to Introduction to AML and Compliance Systems. My name is Mrs. Bullard. You may be getting some feedback because I'm having some technical difficulties. Can you hear me clearly?
Good afternoon. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so let me just sign out of this. You may not see me. I'm just trying to avoid the feedback. Yeah, so I'm having some technical difficulties with the camera. I tried to sign into a second device, but that gives a lot of feedback. So I'm hoping that you can keep abreast without the visual for right now. But again, welcome. I'm Ms. Bullard. I've been with the Institute for the past 6 years. I teach customer service and marketing, as well as supervisory skills. I teach the ICA program, which is the International Compliance Association program, as well as intermediate and introduction to AML and compliance systems. Hopefully halfway through, I can sign back on to, so you can get the visual, but my apologies for right now as IT tries to sort that out. This class is being recorded, so no fears if you sign in a bit late. The recordings will be available right after the session, so you can contact the IT department and speak with Miguel, and he will have all the recordings for you. Okay, so once again, welcome. Primarily, the bulk of my career was spent with Royal Bank, so many of my stories that I talk about in regards to my experience at Royal Bank. This class is discussion based, so please, participate. There's 10% of the grade that goes towards participation, and so this is discussion based. And so the expectation is that you would read the manual or the chapters first and come prepared to just have a discussion. I would have sent out a welcome email, and perhaps I guess everybody is here, or we should give, well, we have about 14 persons. I'm expecting about 24, but did you have an opportunity to peruse the email that I sent with the attachment? Anybody have any questions off the bat about the email that was sent? No, quiet, everybody quiet?
Good
Or am I
afternoon.
calling some names?
I
Go ahead, Justine.
No, someone else is speaking. So
Yeah, this is Gwen Culmer. So I just had a couple of questions regarding the email. I noted
Okay.
that you indicated that only one essay is mandatory. So I just needed clarification around that because I see you sent 4 questions. So is the expectation that we complete all 4 questions and just the essay you will be marking, or I just
No.
need some clarity around that.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go through the instruction sheet in a moment, and I'll go through all the attachments so we will be all familiar with what is actually required and to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Great. Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm a big, because we're at 17 now and we're waiting on 24 perhaps, we can introduce ourselves. A part of the class also pertains to networking. And so, of course, by the end of this class, we would want everybody to introduce themselves and work together. We find that persons do very well when they work together in groups. Compliance is kind of complex, and so sometimes you may need to lean on each other. And so it's good to start a WhatsApp group. Most of the classes have a WhatsApp group. So I don't know if off the bat somebody wants to volunteer or if persons would be interested. I know I'm in 1,000 groups, right? So I can't take another group. So depending on how it goes, if you are interested, a lot of persons, they get together, they group together and they study together. And like I said, they network. But I'll go through the instructions sheet, and then you can decide if you want to start that WhatsApp group to support each other. This program is 3-tier. It leads into the International Compliance Association Diploma in Anti-Money Laundering and Compliance. So this is a journey. This is just the beginning of the journey. It's for 5 weeks. It's introduction. And so you get a basic overview of what compliance is about, some rules, some regulations that have to be followed, and then basically, what does it mean for an institution to become compliant? And then the second step is the intermediate section, and that's 10 weeks. So this is 5 weeks. Then the intermediate section is 10 weeks. And then there's the diploma, which is 9 months of anti-money laundering, and then 9 months of governance, risk, and compliance. Okay, and so that's why I'm saying it's a journey. So again, this is the beginning. Money laundering is a requirement in the financial services sector, and the financial services sector is made up of the gaming board and all the gaming houses, the bank, the central bank and all the banks, the Securities Commission and all the broker-dealer firms and the corporate service providers, the Compliance Commission, who now regulates the accounting firms, the law firms, and the real estate dealers. Real estate brokers, and who else is it? The Insurance Commission. So we have gaming, banks, Compliance Commission with the real estate and accountants, the Securities Commission, and then the gaming board. So all of those entities make up the financial services sector, and AML training is required in all of those entities. And so this is just a basic overview, something similar that you may, if you work in the financial services sector, the training, the annual training that you would get from your employer, okay? The annual mandatory training. So it's a step above that. And if you find that you are interested, most persons do find that they are, and that's why they're here, and then they move on to the next level, which is intermediate, which is the 10 weeks. And then, of course, persons go all the way on to ICA. Compliance, like I said earlier, it's very complex. From the instruction sheet, you may see, that there are 7 essays required for the final exam. And so it's very heavy. It's a very heavy subject. And so it requires a lot of reading and it requires decision making. And that's two things that as human beings, we all struggle with. A lot of people do not like to read, and a lot of people do not, can't make decisions, right? And a lot of persons, they just don't like to do the research that it takes to make a good decision, right? And so they find that compliance may not necessarily be the subject for them. Nevertheless, like I said, we're at the beginning. This is similar to what the training that you would get in your institution annually. And so at the end of the 5 weeks, you make a decision. Do I want to go any further, or do I want to just say that, you know, compliance is not for me and perhaps venture off into another field? What's important is that you are here, you've signed up, and this course, the introductory level, will be applicable no matter where you work in the financial services sector. And most recently, compliance has grown. We have persons out of the medical sector taking the compliance program to ensure that, you know, everybody on the medical side is compliant. Persons in oil and gas. The other day, the oil line in Russia was hacked. And so, of course, they had compliance professionals come in and find out exactly how do we put controls in place to ensure that our institution, oil and gas, is not infiltrated again by the hackers. And then coming upon in the America, not drugs, I don't want to say drugs, marijuana has been, you know, approved in many of the US states. And so it's going to be, I mean, technically, I think they said they got an approval for medical marijuana, I think sometime in June of last year in the Bahamas. So again, will we not need compliance professionals in that field to ensure that, you know, the persons who are cultivating, they follow the laws, the persons who set up the shops and they are compliant and doing what they are supposed to do. So compliance is now widespread and in many other sectors. So we did have some persons from the Ministry of Agriculture in our class the last time. And like I said, from the Pharmaceutical Commission in the class as well. So it just, like I said, it just depends on you whether or not you can tie yourself down and read, and from that reading and that research be able to apply it back into your institutions. Okay, Nicole, you're asking if the class, if your mic is working. I don't know, Nicole, if you can hear me, perhaps you can send a text into the chat and let me know if you can hear. And I think Lavashti answered yes. Okay, so are there any questions so far? Everybody, technically, I'm having a problem with my camera. When I turn it on, it's getting feedback. So hopefully by next week I'll get it fixed. But I did do a small introduction at the beginning for those who just joined the class. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay, and again, I'm going to say this is discussion based. You'll have to talk back to me. I'm going to need some feedback. We're not just going to read from the book, but hopefully we will get comfortable with each other and do a little introduction after we get halfway through, so everybody will be comfortable speaking. Okay?
Good day, Ms. Bullitt.
Okay.
The manual that you speak of, was it sent virtually or is it at the office?
What is that? Sorry?
You're speaking about a manual that we read weekly for chapters. I was wondering if that was sent virtually or it's in the office or somewhere else.
Yeah. Yes, it's in the office. So you should have collected a book from the office when you registered. Is there anybody else that does not have a book? No? Okay, so yes, Taniel, please visit the office, speak with Miss Dean, and she should have a book for you. Okay, and so again, in the chapters in the book, primarily is only 8 chapters. The chapters are very small. They are about 2 to 3 pages each. And again, if you find it difficult to read, then perhaps at the end of this 5 weeks, we want to stop there and not move on. But if it's comfortable and you're able to read, as we move on to the intermediate phase, you will see that the chapters will grow. They will move to about 5 or 6 pages, still primarily very small for compliance. But when we get on to ICA, we will see that the chapters are like 200 pages each chapter. Okay, so this is just a warm up to what is really expected in the diploma program. Okay, so this is how you gauge yourself and decide whether or not you want to go all the way through and if compliance is definitely for you. But I will start by saying compliance is everybody's business, no matter where you work. Like I said, in the financial services sector, this will be applicable to you, and you will find the information pertinent to the area that you work in. Okay. So just a brief overview, and we will talk a lot. Please talk back to me. Please give me some feedback and let me know until we all get comfortable with each other and see the style of the class. Let me know. Sometimes I talk a lot and I talk very fast. I'm very proud to see some men in this class, because the women is let Miss Bullitt run on and on and on with her stories, but the men is reel me in and say, okay, Miss Bullitt, enough talk, stop going south. So I hopefully I think I see 1 or 2 guys in the class. So guys, feel free to be listening, because as women sometimes we talk a lot and we go south. Okay, but we will start with the instruction sheet. And just to make sure, as Kalma said, she wants to be clear on what needs to be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we will go through the instruction sheet. So hopefully everybody would have received this in their emails. And so overall, the passing grade for this course is 70%. And it's broken down into 20% for homework, 10% for participation and research, and 70% for your final exam. And so this homework, these questions, 4 questions are set. There's a due date each Friday before class at 11:59 p.m. And we had to put in a time there because persons were sending homework 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning. And so at 11:59, you had to submit your homework. Now, there are 4 questions and each one has a due date. You have to select 1 question that you want to do for homework. And it should be about 1,000 to 1,200 words. Basic introduction, body and conclusion. You should have taken College 119 English, and some of us haven't been to school for a very long time. However, if we haven't, sometimes we need a refresher. So I find that English 119 helps you with essay writing and to ensure you know how to reference properly. And so it's 1,000 to 1,200 words. You will be given 10 points for the question that you submit. Normally persons get 100% on the homework. Again, it's just for practice to ensure that you are aware of how to answer the questions. All 4 questions are former exam questions. So these 4 questions would have been taken from previous exams. And a lot of people ask, could we have a past paper? These are questions that were taken from a past paper. So again, we just want you to practice to make sure that you're on the same page. Now, in intermediate and in intro, the word count is 1,000 to 1,200 words. In ICA, it's 3,500 words. And so again, this is just practice leading up to ICA. So we want you to ensure that you have 1,000 to 1,200 relevant pieces of information in your essay to get full points. It's very easy. There's loads of information out there. So it's very easy to go south and put in information where you get no points. And so this is the purpose of this homework, so you can practice and you get feedback to ensure that you're on the right track on how to answer these questions. And again, like I said, these are past exam questions. And so you don't be surprised if you see one of these questions on the exam again. They pop up all the time. I also attach the ICA handbook, and you can take some time and read the entire handbook. However, I only want you to pay attention to pages 17 to 19, and it talks about referencing. You will find that as you go through the program and you write your essay that is 25 to 3,500 words, and you send that on, that's marked in the UK, they are very stringent when it comes to how it's referenced. And so, and your source data. And so I want you to read that, and from the onset, we are trying to train persons to ensure that they reference the way they require you to do it. We've had papers coming back and persons have lost like 30 and 40% because they did not reference properly. Not that they didn't have sufficient information or the information wasn't relevant, but because it wasn't referenced properly. So we want to practice from intro to ensure that you reference correctly and the way they want you to do it. Okay, so you can spend some time reading 17 to 19, and it's very simple on how to reference. Okay, so you choose one question and you submit that. And again, if January 22nd, you're overwhelmed and you can't submit, just pick the one for February 8th, February 4th or February 11th. So don't be overwhelmed, you know, by trying to complete it in a day, and don't send it in late because you have 3 other options. What I also see happening with the homeworks, persons are waiting till question 4. Now, I do agree that you know, waiting to tell about the 2nd or 3rd class, you know, because it isn't as clear as mud up front. You know, you need some days to really understand what Ms. Bullett's saying and to digest all this information. So people do wait and to do the 2nd or 3rd homework, but I find that a lot of persons, they wait till the 4th homework is due, that the class is over, they don't get feedback. And after the class, they are scrambling, trying to get information and to find out where they went wrong. Okay, so good to do questions 2 or 3, just to ensure you are on the right track and to get sufficient information going into the exam. Okay, and that's 20% of your final grade. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. It was clear.
Yes,
Yes,
clear.
ma'am.
It is? I can't hear you all.
Yes, ma'am. It was clear.
Yes, That ma'am. was clear.
Okay,
ma'am.
Kalma, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did answer my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Okay, again, like I said, you have to keep me awake too, you know, this compliance is a lot. Miss Bullock will fall asleep if y'all don't talk back to me. So y'all gotta keep me engaged. Okay, this discussion based, okay? So they are the 4 questions. Choose one. Can I do all? Yes, you can do all. Can I submit all? No. It has to be marked and cross-marked. So please only submit one. And there are millions of papers out on customer due diligence, on placement, on FAT, F-style, regional bodies. Please don't just pick up a paper and copy and paste. Again, we're preparing you for ICA. When you submit your paper at ICA, it's uploaded into the system. It tells you 20% of your paper came from you, 20% came from another source, 20% somebody else wrote the same thing. And so, and they give you a percentage, and at the end, if you are close to 50%, you failed before you even submit. Okay, and so what you do is you read a body of work and then you try and translate it into your own words. Okay, avoid copying and pasting the law says in section 4 of the POCA Act. No, we don't need any of that. You can reference it and just say the name of the law that you're quoting, but don't rehash the entire law. Don't rehash an entire quote from out a piece of body of work. You won't get any points. Okay, so we are testing understanding. Remember, in grade 5 or 6, we were taught comprehension. That's what we are testing. Do you understand? Okay, can you give us a real life example? Okay, and you tend to get more points for proving understanding and giving real life examples. Okay, and that's how you get 100% on those essays.
Hi, Ms. Bullitt, I
I-
just
I
want
want-
to make sure, sorry. I
Go
just want
ahead.
to make sure I understand what you're saying. All 4 questions are due, we can just do them in any order we like?
No, I didn't say that. One essay is due.
Okay,
You choose which date is good for you. February 28th, February 4th, February 11th, or January 22nd. You choose whichever date is good for you, and you could submit on that due date, then you
Mhm.
complete that question.
okay.
Only one question is due. If
Okay.
you want to practice and say, Miss Bullitt, I have already submitted question 1 and I got my grade, but I want to take a stab at question 3. Can you give me some feedback? Yes, I can give you some feedback on the side, but don't expect a grade. Okay, you go with the first grade that you would have gotten. And again, all of this is just for practice, because a lot of times persons showed up to the final exam, they'd never seen the questions before. They didn't even understand what the question asked. They weren't certain, they didn't have time to research and you know, have me to put in the answer. So again, this is just to practice, to ensure that you are answering the question properly, because like I said, there's loads of information out there. We have to scale it down and put meat in the answers so we can get full points.
Ms. Bullitt, I have a question. So you're saying whichever one we submit first, that's the one that's going to be graded? What if I wanted to practice with 1 or 2 and then submit 3 for a grade?
You only submit one. Whichever one you submit, you could practice with all. You can only submit one. And only one will be
Okay.
graded.
Okay, so when we practice with one or 2 or 3 for feedback, would we get that? That's what you're saying?
You would have to send me an email and say,
Uh-huh.
please, I would just like some feedback.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Claire, thank
Yeah,
you.
so label it properly, please, because persons try to send me 3 and 4. No, you send 1 because it has to be cross-marked.
Okay,
Okay, and I submit that 1 for a grade. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the 20%. Everybody clear? Okay, so, and again, feel free to chime in and interrupt and just let me know. Let me check the chat. Ms. Bullitt isn't as technically savvy. Okay, somebody said yes. Okay, so you'll just bear with me until, you know, we all get comfortable. Okay, so participation, and this is very important. And persons take this lightly, and then persons call the office and report Ms. Bullitt because they didn't get their 10% for participation. Overall, like I said, the passing grade is 70%. You can walk into the exam with 30% and sit comfortably in the exam if you do your homework and if you participate, okay? And this is how you participate. As compliance professionals, we are required to read the newspaper every day. And in my last employment, you know, people used to come to my office and say, Ms. Bullitt, you actually have the time to read the newspaper every day. It's a requirement, okay? As a compliance professional. And normally, early in the morning, the CEO would come to my office and we would talk about what's happening in the newspaper, okay? Primarily, I worked in the offshore arena for many years, and I dealt with many countries, and so I had to pay attention to what was happening in Switzerland, in Dubai, in Brazil. And so I also had to read their news to ensure that any risks associated with those countries I was aware of, right? And so you may say, Ms. Bullitt, how do you read? Do you just sit down and read all day? No, what I did is I subscribed to the French newspaper. I subscribed to the newspaper out of Brazil and out of Dubai. And then I added them to my WhatsApp feed. So I see the highlights. So rather than trying to read the entire paper and the Bahamian news every day, I, just subscribed to many papers, and they came into my email or they would come across my Facebook feed, and I found it more manageable. Okay, because again, if you are responsible for these jurisdictions, then you need to know what's happening in them, and any risks that may be associated with them. Okay, but locally, you should subscribe to the Bahamas Financial Services Board, the Central Bank of the Bahamas. If you work to a bank, that's the regulator, the Bahamas Association of Compliance Officers. And now that you're in this intro class, you can sign up as a member, a student member. And as you go through the course, when you finish ICA, you become an associate member. The Securities Commission of the Bahamas, the FIU, the FATF, and any other applicable website. You may work at the Attorney General office, or you may work in a real estate firm, and so the Compliance Commission, or you may work in gaming, and so the Gaming Board. And so each day, there are many updates of what's happening in the industry. And so most persons in the institution, they look at compliance to have this information. And so you don't want to be scrambling every time you ask a question, what's happening in the news. In fact, Central Bank and the Securities Commission, they have a check where they come around and they find out, has compliance shared any pertinent information with their organization. So this is the central bank website. You scroll all the way down to the bottom. It has enter your mailing address. Can everybody see that on the screen? Are we there?
No, ma'am. we can't see it.
No.
Y'all can't see the screen?
No, it's still have the
Still at
introduction to
the
AML.
Yeah, it's still at that page.
Okay, let me try again. 1 second. Can we see it now?
No, still at your page.
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
let
Still
me
at the
stop and-
introduction page.
Okay, stop and start again. 1 second. You're gonna get this. Is it showing now?
Yeah, Central Bank's website.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Yeah, so we are at the top of Central Bank's website, and we scroll all the way down to the bottom, and that's where you see the mailing list. And it says to receive emails, updates, and subscribe below. So you put your email in there and you send it on, and their publications each day should come into your emails. If they don't come into your emails, you can follow them on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. And again, all this good information just comes into your department. One of their audit checks is, because I'm the MLRO, they said, Ms. Bullard, show me where you would have disseminated information from our website or our publications to your staff. And so latest banking supervision, and there's a public notice for high-risk jurisdictions, and these are the sanctions updates that come through. And so, of course, I had to print this sanctions update and show them the email where I disseminated it through the institution. Had I not sent that out, I would have gotten an audit note. And we all know what happens when they get too many audit notes, right? And so we want to practice these things now as compliance professionals. We read the newspaper every day. We are aware of what's going on, or we peruse it. We may not have time to read the full, all the sections, but primarily spend some time reading the business section and be, current and aware of what's going on in your jurisdiction or any other jurisdiction that you may be affiliated with. Okay, and like I said, this is just a central bank. Then there's the Securities Commission. And this is another good site to follow. Again, follow us on social media, whichever is easiest for you. And I think at the bottom, you email them and give them your email address. And they add you to their mailing list. What the Securities Commission mans right now is the FinTech Hub. And again, this deals with all the new technology that's going on now, all this online banking, crowdfunding, the DARE bill for the sand dollar and what have you. And so again, as compliance professionals, we need to be aware of all this new technology, all these products and services, and all the risks associated with it. And so we should contact the Securities Commission to ensure that we follow their FinTech link, and the regulation for FinTech is RegTech. And so we want to ensure that we are aware, and when people talk or use this terminology, we are aware of what they're talking about. Okay, does anybody follow the FinTech link now?
No, ma'am. This is my first time seeing that.
Nobody's aware?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, well, that's why we're here. We're going to learn a lot. and we're gonna know what type of conversations to have for our water cooler conversation. So no more talking about what we had for dinner and taking pictures of what we cook, and they are not the water cooler conversations that we have with executives, right? We are to have what's happening with the FinTech Hub at the Securities Commission, or what is the latest publication at the central bank, or what is happening in the financial services industry. Okay. And so these are the things that we want to subscribe to. And so we are aware of what's happening. Okay, so that's your subscriptions. So once you read the newspaper and you want to get your 5% for participation, sometimes we are going to read it out the book, but not very often. And so what each of you are expected to do is read a newspaper article, and we don't all have to do it at once. Read the newspaper article and come back and share it with the class. And so you could just say, Miss Bullitt, I read the business section today, and it talked about compliance issues that we are facing, or what's popular in the news now, the pandemic, how it's affecting the financial services sector, or what have you. The other day, somebody said, I read about mental health in the workplace, and they shared that. So it can be specific to compliance, but it doesn't have to be. But we just want you to keep abreast and aware of what's happening in your jurisdiction. Okay, so after you would have come, read the book, or shared what you would have gotten from social media or from the newspaper, and that's how you get your first 5%. The next 5% is networking. And so as we go through the chapters and we read about terrorism, we will see how important networking is. Okay, and so what we want to do is we want to hang out with the movers and shakers of the corporate, Bahamas. And so where do they hang out? Not at the dock, not at the fish fry, right? They had Toastmasters, they had Rotary, and they had Kiwanis. Okay, and so we want to attend one of those civic organizations, introduce ourselves, try to get to know some persons there, and we want to embrace those organizations and perhaps join, but we want to come back and share with the class that we attended one of these organizations. And again, this is where the WhatsApp group comes into place. A lot of us are a little shy, we don't want to speak up, and so we don't want to go to one of these meetings by ourselves. So group together, network with persons in the class, and about 3 or 4 of y'all go together and come and share your experience. Okay, and that's how you get your second 5%. So do you see now how you can comfortably sit into the final exam and pass this right away? You're already in the exam. Before it starts, you already have 30%. Isn't that awesome? No? Yes, maybe so.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
So we all excited already because we already, all A's, everybody passed, right?
Starting to think about ideas, yes.
Yes, good. See, I'm giving you all answers. Okay, very good. And so after we are sitting now on February 19th, which is a very special day, by the way, fight into this final exam with our 30%, now 70%. So 15 multiple choice questions, 7 essay questions. And persons may say, oh my God, Miss Bullitt, 7 essays. It is a lot. I won't downplay it. It is very comprehensive, but it is achievable. Okay. And persons have gone on all the way to ICA and been successful. So it is maybe blurry right now. And persons, we already had some people drop out and say, I can't do this, Miss Bullitt, after they saw this instruction page. But for those that stick it out, I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Okay. Very, very achievable. It is a lot. It's a lot of work, and anything worth having, you have to work hard for. Okay, but now we have all the answers, and we know how to successfully pass this class. And we see what type of questions will be asked on the exam, and we know how to answer those. Okay. So by the end of 5 weeks, you will be surprised at the amount of information you will get, hopefully retain, and then go back and apply it to your organizations. Okay, clear as mud?
Very clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
no questions? The more y'all talk to me, the more points you'll get, so just talk
Okay.
back to me. Talk back to me. Okay, so good. So we halfway there. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And so that's what's required with the homework. That's how you get all your points that is needed throughout the course. Okay,
Hello, Ms.
be excited yet?
Ballard.
Yes.
The final exam, how is that set up? I mean, the location, is it on Zoom or in person?
It's going to be in person. The Institute has 8 classes. What closer to the date when we have the review class, that week, I will ask you to call Miss Dean and make an appointment. Some of you will go at 9:30 in the morning and some will go at 1 p.m. Okay, so it's just a matter of scheduling and to ensure that, you know, we have social distancing and what have you.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So let's look at the book again. The book may look a little bit thick. It's only 8 pages. After the chapters, you will see that there are colored papers at the back, and then it says case 1, case 2, case 3. Again, after chapter 8, you'll see that there's an appendix with some practice questions. The case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4 are excerpts that were taken from the internet. Again, just to give you practice. And so it's hard to number it because we often change it. And again, it's just practice questions for you to go through. So you will see what type of multiple choice questions there are. And then it goes on and give you a case example. And then some red flags and key indicators that you may want to look for when you're dealing with organized crime. Okay, so like I said, this is a discussion-based class. So the expectation is that you read the chapter and you come prepared to have a discussion, and then you spend some time at the back of the book, and there are multiple choice questions, and you try to answer them. And just before the beginning of class, when we're doing the newspaper clippings and the 5%, we normally take the first half an hour to just talk about the newspaper and what's happening with current events. And that gives persons who, you know, everybody won't reach at one. And so normally that gives persons time to come into the class. But of course, everything is recorded, and so you won't miss anything. Okay, so that's normally how the class would be set up. Okay, so spend some time at the back of the book, and we're going to actually read on terrorism, one of the excerpts, I think case 4 at the back of the book today, just to give you a little bit of clarity. Okay, we good? We good so far?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, boy, you're very quiet. You're very quiet. Okay, so perhaps we should take 5 minutes, and let's again be off the network. We want to get to know each other, and just let me know if you are interested in the WhatsApp group, and then if somebody would volunteer to be the administrator. And again, you don't have to do it this class. By next class, you decide if we want this WhatsApp group. And so let's start with introducing ourselves. And if you don't move right now, I'd be able to call everybody. And so just introduce yourself and say whether or not you would want to participate in the WhatsApp group. And again, no pressure. It's just that a lot of persons have found it beneficial. Okay, so we want to start with Andrea Lisa. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Lisa, and I currently work for Bahamas Air. I am taking the course because I want to take the next flight out of there.
Okay, well, we hope that we can help you achieve all your goals, Andrea Lisa. Okay, and that you find it beneficial, so welcome. Okay, Crystal Wilson.
Good morning. My name is Crystal. I am employed with the Central Bank of the Bahamas. I am taking this class because because of the work environment that I'm in, it is heavily based on compliance, heavily based on risk. And so I just wanted to get a bit more insight into the course.
Okay, great, great. Welcome, Crystal. Justine? No, Justine? Okay,
Sorry, something was
Lavashti?
going on.
Oh,
Hello, something was going
oh,
on with
okay.
my phone. Sorry.
Okay,
Hi,
go ahead.
my name is Justine Simon. I'm currently employed at Fidelity Bank, Bahamas. Uh, Administrative assistant. I took on compliance because I wanted to branch off in a different area that is more challenging and hopefully more career oriented, that the area I would want to move in. And yes, I'm
Okay,
interested in a WhatsApp group.
okay, good, excellent. Okay, Michelle?
Hi there. My name is Michelle Payne. I actually work for an IT company. And believe it or not, compliance is hitting IT because, you know, everybody's concerned about where you're selling important equipment to. So I thought I would try this to see if it was an area that I could either bring back to my company or branch into. I would love to be part of the WhatsApp, so count me in.
Okay, excellent, and welcome. Lauren Brown?
Hello, my name is Lauren Brown. I'm currently employed at Family Guardian as a CSR. I took the course as a more knowledgeable approach because I have my finance degree and I want to broaden my financial career.
Okay, Lauren, so you're in the right place, you're on the right track, so welcome. Thank you. Lavashti?
Hi, my name is Lavashti. I'm currently employed at Bank of the Bahamas as an operations administrator. I'm in the process of transitioning into the compliance department, so I seized the opportunity to enter this course to propel me into my oncoming new field, which would be compliance, and I am most definitely interested in the WhatsApp groups.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. Mikhail?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole. My background is primarily commercial banking, but I recently joined a online brokerage company. So this is my first, I guess, step into compliance. That's my primary role. So that's why I'm a part of this class, and I am also interested in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mikhail. Melissa?
Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Melissa Cornish. I work for Loan Trustee Bank as an office manager. And I'm doing this course because an opportunity presented itself where my employers saw that I can be vital in the company as a compliance officer. And hence I'm taking up the course to see where this takes me. And I'm interested in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And so whomever, somebody can volunteer to be the administrator because it seems like persons are interested. And so once somebody volunteers to be the administrator, then we can start to put our numbers into the chat. Okay. Nicole? Is Nicole there? No? Okay, we'll come back to Nicole. Kalma?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gwen Culmer, and I'm the customer service manager at Scotia Wealth Management Private Banking. The reason that I took this course is to enhance my knowledge of AML and compliance systems, and I am interested in the WhatsApp group. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kalma. Shanae Menes?
Hi, my name is Shanae Menes, and I work at CIBC. I just took the course just to further my career, and I'm interested in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Nicole, thank you. We see in the chat that your mic is not working, so that's fine. Shanda Mack? No Shanda Mack. Okay, Tanil Bain?
Good day, my name is Tani Payne, and I guess I was looking for something new to do, and one of my friends suggested that I do this because they know I like things, I guess, related to this, like the law. So yeah, that's me, and I am interested in the WhatsApp group for anyone who is going to take charge of that.
Okay, great. Tira's iPad.
Good day. My name is Tira Bow. I am presently employed at Scotiabank, Carmichael Road, and I decided to do the course just to find something new and more interesting because I want a career shift.
Okay, welcome, and we do hope that we help to facilitate that. Monica?
Good day, all. My name is Monique Brown Knowles, and I currently am employed with the Department of Meteorology. I am stepping out of my comfort zone and trying to get into the banking field, so I figured that this class would be perfect for me.
Okay, definitely. So welcome. And so we are happy that, persons from outside of the industry are looking in and they are encouraged. So we hope we don't disappoint. Okay, so we have a well-diverse class and please, like I said, network. But after we read chapter 2, each of you will see how important it is to network. And so you'll take my advice right away. Okay, so very good. Is there anybody who minds being the administrator of the WhatsApp group? Any volunteers? Is that Lavashti volunteering?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I should give you 5 extra points right now. But very good, Lavashti. Thank you.
Can I say something? Well, to the class, when the class is over, I'm done with. Can you guys leave your number in the group chat and I can get the numbers that way?
Right. Okay, good. Okay, so the numbers are coming in. Okay, very good. Okay, very good, guys. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Okay, so we'll just hop right into chapter 1. And again, because most of us work in the financial services sector, we should be familiar with what money laundering is, what terrorist financing is, but we're going to go through the entire gamut to ensure that everybody's on the same track. Okay, and so the book says that money laundering is the process where criminals, if they are successful, they conceal the ownership and the origin of property from their criminal acts, and they put it into the financial services sector. Okay, and how do they get this money from criminal acts into the financial services sector? There are stages, and those 3 stages are placement, where the cash is derived from the criminal activity and infused into the financial system. Then they layer it, which involves a complex system of transactions designed to hide the source and ownership of the funds. And then they integrate it, which is after that, those funds are already into the bank, they wire it out, they pay school fees, they buy cars, they pay bills. And so that's how it's infiltrated back into the system. Okay, and I normally have a little story. What type of criminal activity? There are 21 crimes that are listed now under money laundering. Okay, and this is a very popular question on the exam. It normally asks you to list 3 to 5 crimes that fall under a money laundering. And so you have a wide variety to choose from. There's fraud, there's theft, there's drug dealing, there's people trafficking, there's smuggling, there's tax evasion. Okay, so back in the day, you would see that the banks would say stealing by reason of employment or fraud, which held a lesser charge. Theft held a lesser charge. After 2018, all our laws were changed, and now they have made money laundering a predicate crime. So if you pay attention to the news, when persons are now stealing by reason of employment and money laundering, drug dealing and money laundering, fraud and money laundering. Have we seen the difference in recent years? Have we heard that term now being when persons are hauled across the TVs to court? Have we seen that difference?
Yes,
No?
most definitely. I've seen
Okay.
it.
So again, that's the difference. Since 2018, our laws have been updated. So now, if you steal by reason of employment or if there's theft, you will have 2 charges and money laundering, okay? 21 crimes. And so back to the stages, and I always have this story that I tell about the easiest way to explain money laundering, because as you see for the homework, the question 1 asks you to explain the placement stage. And so how do I write 1,000 to 1,200 words on just the 1 stage of money laundering? So of course you would want to go over the 3 stages: placement, layering, and integration. And then you would want to give an example. And this is my example. So years ago, I started off as a teller at Royal Bank of Canada, and then I became the teller supervisor. And so we had this guy outside, like most of us, that we call Yadi, right? Most people have a Yadi outside who cleans the cars or who does little maintenance work for the staff, would go to the shop back and forth. And we really only know him as Yadi, right? And so Yadi came in and he said, Miss Bullet, I clean 5 cars and, I really want to save some money. I want to open up an account. And I said, sure, no problem. I said, I encourage you. Bring in your ID and we'll be able to open that account for you. And so he brought in his ID and proof of address and what have you, and we opened the account. And so at account opening, this is where we establish a profile. This is how we decide whether your transactions are suspicious or not, based on the profile that you establish. And so, of course, he said, if I clean 5 cars in a week, that's $100 a day, and I have rent to pay and food, and I should be able to deposit $50 a week. I said, okay, Yadi, that's reasonable, right? Because he established, and I would have corroborated that this is the information that he presented to me. I could verify that he does indeed clean the number of cars, and so we established that profile. So everything was going well with Yadi, and he was depositing his $50. And then one day he walks into the bank and said, Miss Bullet, you could be so proud of me. I have this $10,000 I want to deposit. And I was like, Yadi, like, where you get $10,000 from? Miss Bullet, I hit a lick. Okay, I need you to deposit this money. Okay, so tell me, we talked about placement, we talked about layering, we talked about integration. What was this in Yadi's profile?
No,
Anybody?
No, sir. No, sir.
Oh, no, definitely.
No.
Okay. So but Yadi is cleaning my car. So what Miss Bullet should have done?
So Ms. Bullet needs to ask Yadi to provide documentation as to where you get these funds from.
I was going to say the
because-
same thing. You should have asked him to provide source of funds.
Yeah.
Correct. But he is my boy and we street talk. And so he said, Miss Bullet, I hit a lick.
Call the police.
Not because you know me, you should have
Call the police.
And that hit the lick could mean so many things.
It sound legal.
But if I call the police for Yai, who'll clean my car?
There's plenty car washers out there. Yeah, committing a crime and you letting them slide.
Listen, sound like you won't get locked up at the Yadi.
Okay. Well, I just want you all to understand that's what happens. Is it's not a stranger. It's not somebody you don't know. It could be a legitimate person who legitimately opened the account and had been verified. However, one day he walks in and he said, Miss Bullet, I was tired cleaning cars and my boy introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody, and we do a little drug deal and I make this $10,000. And I remember you tell me, Miss Bullet, but saving. So I come straight to you and I give you this money. Okay, and that's exactly what he said. Okay, and that's exactly what happens most of the times in these financial institutions, is either a friend or a long-standing customer or somebody we are familiar with who we have verified, who has the account open, but now they cannot substantiate where they got this money from, or they feel that y'all have such a good relationship, they can tell you that they did something illegal. Okay, and this is why we have all these crimes listed under money laundering. Yes, you will get charged with drug dealing, but money laundering as well. So obviously he was successful in doing his drug dealing. Okay. And he came to the bank, and now this is how he was found out. So a lot of us, when we are onboarded to these institutions, we sign a lot of policy and procedure. They give us an employee handbook. Some laws are in there that say staff cannot fail to disclose. Staff can also not tip off. Okay. And later on in the chapters, we're going to learn what the penalty it is for tipping off and failing to disclose. Okay. And so therefore, me as a staff member, I verified him. He could not produce the the source of funds. At least he produced it, and it was illegal because he just thought we were so cool. I could not tip him off and say, no, Yadi, I can't take this money. And we are the gatekeepers, so I had to take the money, put it on hold, and then report to our MLRO what had happened. Okay, and so that's exactly what happened, and that's exactly how money is laundered, because we say, oh Lord, Yadi, come, I can take this time, but no more drug deal, and don't bring no more drug money to the bank, and don't tell no money body you do a drug deal, right? And we take that money and we deposit it. Then Yadi transfer something to his brother, transfer something to the person who he do the drug deal with, and then he pay his rent. So here it is, the innocent landlord. The money is now infiltrated back into the system because the landlord went and paid the children's school fee and bought groceries. Okay, so essentially the money is washed. Okay, and so that was a real life true experience that had happened to me years ago when I was at Royal Bank Finco. Okay, and so that's an example that you can use if you want to explain how is this money placed, what exactly happened. Okay, and most recently, a case that happened was with the Securities Commission. The Securities Commission was defrauded $850,000 by their car wash attendant, who they only knew as an alias, either Yadi or Brownie or, whatever we call these, car washy or whatever. Had they known his full name, they would have seen that he was out on bail for robbing Commonwealth Bank in one of the Family Islands. However, they only know him as an alias. So how many of us have that car wash guy or that person who was hanging around the bank who we send to the shop for soda or send for a chip or go pick up our lunch? How many of us have that outside our institution right now?
But how was he able to defraud Securities Commission?
Well, they had some pre-authorized printed checks, and I don't have the full story, but I was told that the person left their computer bag in the car, and the car was being cleaned, and the car wash guy ran off with some of the checks. And a lot of times we hand a bunch of keys to these car wash people, and the bank key for the door on it, the safe key on it, the vault key, right? This is what we do, right? Correct? Everybody's silent.
Yes.
Don't talk back to me, Lauren. Correct?
I don't know that one.
No, we don't do that. We don't hand our key because we're so comfortable and that person outside the work.
No, I opened the door for you. That's about it.
Okay, but do we know what their names are? Any of us have a car wash guy now and we don't even know his name other than Yadi or some alias that we call it?
At Bank of we have like 2, and I don't even know what their names are.
Okay, but they access your car and your personal information every day, right?
No, that car lock.
Okay, but
so
for the
like
most
anything
part,
in your outside your car.
yeah, for those who are not aware, we give them our keys. Our house key on it, they can even follow us home and just open our house door. Okay, so just be aware. Be very aware, because like I say, had the Securities Commission known Jeremy's name, they would have been able to put that in the system and see that he was out on bail for robbing a bank already, and they wouldn't have, I'm certain wouldn't have let him be the car wash guy. Okay,
Okay, so Ms. But I have a question. Do y'all normally check the car wash mom, because I don't even think if I knew his name, that would alert me to go and check up on him. Unless I just naturally suspicious of people.
No, we are a very reactive society. We don't check it only because something happened. Something has to happen, right? We are not proactive, we are reactive. So because that happened, we now check, right? And so before it happens to somebody else, I am saying go out there and find out their name. There's something in outsourcing where all your vendors, you should do a background check on them. You should ask them for a good standing to make sure their business is in good standing. If you are like the Royal Bank of Canada, you shouldn't be doing business with persons who are struck off the company's registrar and stuff like that. And so we should ask persons on these companies to make sure they are in good standing, but we don't. We should find out, let's look at a QBC. I mean, and this is far-fetched, there was no way for them to know this. QBC, they just got robbed over the Christmas holiday. You know, that guy was on, the owner, Mr. Wilson, he was on TV, he was adamant. So this has to be an inside job because the armor truck did not come. And this is the first time over the Christmas, the armor truck did not come. I had $65,000 that I made over Christmas. And it just happened. I happened to get robbed. The one time I have this excessive amount of money, somebody had to know about this, right? And then again, like I say, when they did an investigation, they found that it was one of his employees' boyfriend who had robbed. Okay, so it's good to have, when you do a background check, have sufficient information, but I'm just saying it's within our culture where we just call these aliases and don't really know who these people are. So we have to now get to the point where we do proper background searches and checks for anybody who comes into the institution. Look at the Vallis Payne, he's out on bail and he does the air freshener. I don't know if you go around into the insurance companies. I mean, their bathroom smells like heaven, okay? And they was able to, I think they defrauded Ministry of Tourism and I don't know if Royal Bank was involved in that, but him and his company has access to many financial services sectors or institutions. And he flies around on a private jet from just air fresheners. And he drives a BMW, brand new off the lot, just off an air freshener. Okay, so you have to, anybody who coming in to your business, there should be a privacy officer. There should be a clear desk policy. These people have an agenda. These hackers are way smarter than we are. You know, they formulating companies, getting contracts, and then coming into the building and infiltrating. Okay, so we have to leave no stone unturned and do our proper checks. I mean, it's outside the box, but now we have already had somebody else infiltrated. Let's just, you know, try and get as much information as possible. I mean, we just want to ensure that, you know, you cannot eliminate risk. Always know that, but you can mitigate it. Okay, you could do some checks to make sure that, hey, this person out on bail for robbing a bank, I don't think we should let them clean our cars. you know, or we need to, yeah, find somebody else. At least be aware. Okay. So do we understand how the money is placed?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And we understand how the money is layered? Because once I get that money in the bank, I got to pay off everybody. You help me do this drug deal. And then the money is going to go back into the system. It's going to pay bills, buy food. You know, it's going to be reintroduced as clean money because this money comes from the bank, so it's clean. Right? And so there are various, these in the book, you would see all these different examples online. They tell you the various ways, the very crafty ways where people launder money and what they do. So you could spend some time going in and reading and seeing, various cases. But like I said, very popular question. This question on the predicate crimes, 21 crimes under the book list: fraud, theft, counterfeiting. And you don't want to just give an example. You want to explain a case. People trafficking. Our very own Adrian Fox, very good philanthropist. He was just charged with people trafficking. Initially, America had said he was a fugitive. Now he got a $5,000 fine. Okay, there are millions of drug dealing cases. The person from Central Bank should be able to tell us about the millions of the counterfeiting cases. The very popular counterfeiting case is George Floyd, where he would have went into the store and they assumed that it was a fake $20 bill that he used. They called the police and that turned south, right? So that's how you answer these questions. You give a definition and then you give an example. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
You sure? Benika, give me an example of placement. Be back on question 1. Give me another example. Benika, you there?
Currency exchange. That's what I read
Okay.
from the little
How?
box.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said that's what I read from the little book. Now, bear in mind, I'm the one from meteorology, so this is a bit
Okay.
right.
All right. I
have
call
to
you later
listen.
then.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but do you understand the steps?
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting it.
Okay, and do you have that same car wash guy outside the media, or you only
No,
financial
ma'am.
places?
No,
I
ma'am.
don't have no car wash places.
No, ma'am.
But you familiar with a scenario
Yes, ma'am.
like that? You know that. Okay, good. Yeah, that's a part of our culture. Okay. So come before we go out. That's chapter 1. Before we skip on to chapter 2, give me your thoughts. Give me some feedback. Ask your questions. Nicole? Or Nicole said her mic wasn't working. Michelle?
I'm not honestly not sure what to ask because I'm new to financial services too. So it's all this is
But
quite
was it
fascinating.
sufficient? Yeah. Was it sufficient information to, do you
I
understand the 3
process.
stages?
Yep.
Sorry?
Understand the process. Yeah.
Okay, good.
But
Good.
actually,
Okay,
I do have a
and
question. Most of what you're saying
go ahead.
sounds like, it's like the small potatoes kind of guy. I mean, the big fellas who are doing this, who make a living doing crimes. I mean, they don't fall into these things. Like, how do they launder money?
Okay, Michelle, only poor people is go to jail.
True.
That's the first thing. Okay. And in 2018, so there's a group called the FATF, and that's an international regulator, the Financial Action Task Force, and they have 40 recommendations, and they call it recommendations. But if countries do not put these laws into place, of course we get blacklisted. Okay, compliance is fairly new, whereas IT and operations have been around for, like, say 50 or 60 or 100 years, because Royal Bank is 108 years old. And they always had the finance department, or maybe not the IT, but compliance was born in 2000 when countries started to get blacklisted because they didn't put these recommendations in place. So fairly 21 years of compliance and trying to train and teach people about what it is, right? And so what we have seen is that the big boys normally get a slap on the wrist and everybody else goes to jail. Okay, if we look at Peter Nygaard, Peter Nygaard has criminal history dating back to 1970. He has just now been arrested in 2020, but he was able to pay off and defraud the system for all these years, simply because he had money. So I always encourage persons to have at least 4 to 5 revenue streams, because if you're poor, more than likely you're going to jail. If you're rich, you could afford the seal, and used to be Wayne Monroe. It ain't even Wayne Monroe no more, because he is our national security minister. But you should have been able to, if you had money, you could afford them, and they could, you win your case on a technicality. And they know the law upside down, and they know all the flaws in the law and why persons get away for so long. But if you have no money to pay them, that you go to jail. Okay, and in 2018, because we want to be compliant as a nation and not be blacklisted, the Bahamas made money laundering a predicate crime. And so it used to be just the compliance officer could go to jail. Now anybody in the institution can go to jail. And so the way we keep ourselves out of jail, because like I said, these hackers and these scammers, they're very smart. Their job all day is to sit down and learn how to defraud the system whilst we are overworking, underpaid, and stressed out. And so it's easy for them to infiltrate. And so it's easy for us to go to jail. And like I said, we can only put controls in place and mitigate risk. We can't eliminate it. And so therefore, we need to know what the policy says. We need to know what the law says. So we have to read. And then we won't get charged with negligence. But the people are going to infiltrate our systems, and we ain't even going to know what happened. And then we are going to go to jail as well. Okay, so working in the financial services sector, gone are the days of when you get slapped on the wrist. We are being internationally watched, and some people got to go to jail, just so the country does not look like it's not compliant.
Thank you for the context. No, actually, the context makes a whole lot of sense. So that context was kind of missing, because like I said, I'm new to this, so I'm trying to put it all together.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, as we go through it, it'll become clear. Yeah. Like I said, compliance was just born in 2000. We are 21 years old. Still a bit immature, still learning. Major laws were changed. Everything was revamped in 2000. Again, back then we were a tax nation. Primarily, a lot of our accounts, we were offshore jurisdiction. And what made us attractive was that persons did do tax evasion, whereas they opened accounts in the Bahamas and did not declare to their countries that they had these accounts. And so therefore they didn't pay their taxes. And so taxes in America and Canada throughout the world is about 10 to 35%. And so it was cheaper to just have your money stored away in the Bahamas or Cayman, one of these islands. And this is what all these laws hope to stop, and so this is what compliance is all about, ensuring that the laws are enforced within institutions and staff are aware, and we are all the gatekeepers, and we protect the financial services sector. Okay, so no more tax evasion. No matter where you have your money in the world, you now have to declare. And the institutions have to file. If you don't take it to your IRS, the institution does. And so there's no way. I mean, there are some loopholes, but for the most part, persons have to pay their taxes. Okay, and everybody has to be compliant. And so imagine us being that tax jurisdiction where that made us attractive. And now it's cheaper to keep your money at home. And so therefore, you see a lot of banks and trust companies just closing down left, right, and center. And we lost a lot of business. And so what happened is the Bahamas took a staggered approach. So it did not wipe out the financial services sector all at once. And so therefore, we put the shell of the body in law, and of course, like I say, the DeSuils and the Wayne Monroes, who knows the technicalities to the law, were able to win cases for their, high-end customers. And so they did. Now the FATF is saying, listen, y'all old enough, y'all ain't 18 no more, y'all ain't 16 no more, you have to get this compliance thing under control. And so in 2018, complete revamp and repeal of all the laws and all the sections they were on our backs. You know, you have to put this law in place. And then we saw a furthermore retraction of the financial services sector because regulation is expensive. Okay, a whole compliance makes no money for the business. The only way compliance makes money is it saves the business from paying fines. And so you would find that institutions do not want to invest in compliance and invest in a department. They have 800 clients, they have a one-man band with an assistant. So it's no way one person could keep an entire organization, you know, compliant. And so there are a lot of issues. But of course, you know, institutions look at revenue, and so sales making all the money, and so that's where they can invest all the money. So compliance professionals have to fight, you know, for funding, for staffing, and for systems, you know, to be able to ensure that the compliance department is compliant. Okay, and so a lot of things that were money makers, we can't do anymore. And so that's another challenge, right? And so because of all these issues, you know, compliance is a regulated function. The regulator has to approve it, not compliance, but that money laundering reporting officer function, the regulator approves that. And so that function, I don't know why they try to split it, but it's normally the compliance officer. So whoever is the head of the compliance department has to be approved. So you can put an ad in the paper and you could say, I choose Ms. Bullen as my compliance officer, but I have to go through a fit and proper test with the regulator to ensure that I am fit and proper. And so you bring them a credit reference letter, you bring them a character reference, you give them your CV, they come out to your neighbors, they do an interview with your neighbors to make sure no police, no fighting, no carrying on. You pay your rent on time, you know, stuff like that, to make sure that you are fit and proper to handle that position. Okay, so it's an approval function, regulated by, if you regulate as the Securities Commission approves it. If you're the central bank approves it. Once they approve it, then you send all that approval on to the FIU, and the FIU then gives access to their new portal, and they accept STR, suspicious transaction reports, from you on behalf of that institution. Okay, and then they do ask you for a private phone number and a private email address and directions to your house. In the event you have to report, like a CEO, and CEOs have been reported and removed in the Bahamas. Okay, so it's a heavy function. It's very expensive. Like it's one of the top tier positions in an institution. And so that's another issue where you have to fight, because the department makes no money. You have to fight for a compliance officer to be adequately paid. And at minimum, anybody in compliance, not anybody, but the compliance officer and above should be making about $60,000 and above. And the requirements, I think, to be fit and proper, you have to have 4 to 5 years experience, and not in compliance, because you need to would have worked in finance and HR, and, you know, in order to know how to keep all them compliant. So not necessarily in the compliance department, you need to have that experience, but you need to be well versed in other departments. So, you know, when they have the issues, you could speak knowledgeably to how to assist them. Okay, and this is why you need to build a network, because you won't have all the answers, and it is a decision-based function. Okay, you have to do research. You have to pick up the phone and call people and say, hey, how do you do this? What is your take? Okay, and you don't always have access to funding to pay for a lawyer or pay for legal, and so you need to build your network where you can leverage off each other and help each other make the best decision for that time. Document it. Later on, it may not be the best decision. Another thing, if you're going on this complete journey, is you want to keep all your essays, you want to keep all your notes, you want to establish a library and keep all your research, because as you go through the program, you will see that you will need the, especially when you go to ICA, persons who didn't take intro and intermediate always call and ask, could we have a book? Could we sit in the class? Could we do this? So start your library from the very first essay and any research that you do, and keep it organized. Let's Miss Bullet stuff all over the place and I be digging for days. So keep it organized and keep a nice little library, and you will find that all of that will be helpful and beneficial to you. So the research doesn't take as long the next time you need to make a decision. You all get so quiet, Miss Bullet, about to fall asleep. You awake?
Right here.
Very informative.
Okay, good. Okay, Tira, give me some feedback. What do you think? What is your take so far? Tira?
You blacked out. You tap it a little bit. It's very, very informative. It is a lot to have to ingest, but I think I could do it.
Okay, great. Get in there, like I say, as we go through, it gets clearer and it gets easier. Okay, so we're going to go on to chapter 2, and we're going to talk about terrorism. And then I need a volunteer who wants to get their 5% right up front to read. And again, all of this is about awareness.
I can do the reading.
Again, sorry?
I'll do the reading.
Okay, excellent, Melissa, very good. So yeah, so about awareness, and it's a lot of things when it comes to terrorism that we do not think of. So we'll go into chapter 2. Just before we go into chapter 2, to make it a little bit more interesting, if any of you have Netflix, there's a series called Dirty Money on Netflix. And I don't know which season it is, but go into Dirty Money and look up the case HSBC and Mexican drug lords. And I want you all to watch that, because again, that creates a lot of awareness. And the next class, we will discuss what happens there. Most of you have Netflix, correct?
Yes, but could you repeat the name, Dirty Money HSBC, and what was the ending?
Yeah, so the title is Dirty Money. And the series that I want you to watch is on HSBC and Mexican drug lords.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so again, awareness training, just so you are aware, okay, of what happens really in the financial services sector and compliance. Okay, so chapter 2 goes on to talk about terrorism. And again, very common questions that come out of terrorism is, what do they do? How do they do it? What are their purposes? What are their objectives? Okay, and I just want to say that a lot of time when we think about terrorism, automatically, we jump into September the 11th, and we look at international terrorism. And a lot of times we think that, it's not, it does not affect us here in the Bahamas. But how many of you know that on September 11th, one of the planes landed in Freeport?
What?
Are you aware of that?
No, ma'am.
No.
Never heard anything about it.
Yeah. So back in 2000, now remember, compliance was just born in 2000. Back in 2000, on September the 11th, a plane landed, an American Airlines plane landed in Freeport, and 2 persons got off the plane, and a flight was supposed to leave from Freeport and I think go into Orlando, and they were going to hijack that and take that into the White House, okay? And you could go online and read about that story. However, back in 2000, our immigration department was very vigilant. Those 2 persons did not have a proper visa. Some of the coding was missing from that visa. And our very vigilant immigration department stopped them, did not take $20 as a tip and let them through, and sent them right back on the plane they came on. So they were transferred right back to Orlando where they came from, instead of being able to hijack the plane. Could you imagine the repercussions of the Bahamas had that plane left out of Freeport and gone into the White House? Like how the other 2 planes went into the Trade Center. Okay, we have 3 international airports: San Salvador, Norte Lutro, and Exuma. And trust me, because of that incident way back in 2000, persons may look at those areas and say, we want to infiltrate them, but they have senior persons out to those airports to make sure that they check the visas and, but this is the Bahamas, of course, and anything could happen. But yeah, back in 2000, kudos to our immigration department for being very vigilant and not accepting a tip and letting those persons through, because we would have still been suffering today had those planes left from Freeport. Okay, so we don't want to take it for granted that these scammers or these hackers or these persons who carry out these attacks are not looking at countries that they feel that they can infiltrate, because back then they thought easy to get in and out of the Bahamas, right out of Freeport. Okay, so we want to be vigilant and be careful. Another thing is, when we talk about terrorism, we always only talk, like I say, think about September 11th or the Middle East. Okay, in America, in 2019, there's only 365 days in the year. In 2019, there were more than 365 cases of domestic terrorism in America. Okay, and you know what they say? You sneeze, they sneeze, and we get your cold, right?
Yes.
And we've seen some parts of it. We saw that a baby shower was shot up in Montel Heights, 13% shot. We saw that the Fox Hill Park at Christmas, 8 persons were shot. We saw that just recently in April in Jerome Avenue, 6 persons were shot. Okay, and primarily you may say, Ms. Bullitt, is that terrorism? Yes, it is. Okay, primarily our terrorism is coming from gangs. Okay, and so it's not talked about. Again, there's no awareness out there. And so even though America has all those cases, and they are based on their beliefs and ideologies, we want to be aware of domestic terrorism and know how it is affecting us locally. Okay, so I don't want the light to only be shined on the Middle East and all these things that they do, but be aware of what can happen right here in our country if we don't get it under control. Okay, and so the book says the objective of terrorism is to intimidate a population or to compel a government or international organization to do or abstain from doing any act. Okay, terrorist groups change over time. They talk about Boko Haram, Al Qaeda, and of course we know ISIS and ISIL. Terrorist organizations need financing. This is their purpose. They need financing. They need recruitment. They need training. They need weapons. They need travel. They need materials. They need safe haven protection. Let's think about bin Laden. Bin Laden was on the run for 10 years. He lived comfortably. When they found him, he was in a 2-story house with wives and concubines and children. I'm sure it was air conditioned, and he needed insulin every day. And so I always think about, what am I doing wrong? Because if I was to lose my job and I told my mother I was moving home with my husbands and my concubines and my 10 children, would I live in air condition every day? Would I eat a steak or a lobster? Would she not tell me, Miss, you read that newspaper every day, you see any job? Right? How was he allowed to live for 10 years? You all have parents who could keep you all for 10 years with your concubines, Mikhail?
No.
Mikhail, you there?
I'm here. No, I got parents that love me, but I don't think they love me that much.
Would you be able to bring one wife and 5 children?
No, well, maybe a wife and 2. I'd have to put the other 3
Then 2,
somewhere
but
else.
not 5. You got to find a job right away and take care of yourself, right? But
That's
Bin
all I'm saying.
Laden was right. So Bin Laden was able to live comfortably for 10 years, and all because of his network. Okay, and so I don't want anybody else. We don't want to take anything else from Bin Laden except his networking ability. Okay, we want to be able to do what is right and have a very strong network, as strong as Bin Laden's, but we don't want to know anything else or take anything else from him. Okay, but he had a very strong network that allowed him to live comfortably and survive better than most persons who are working and get insulin and be protected for all those years because of how strong his network is. Okay, and so again, a popular multiple choice question is, how do they do this? Is it legitimately or illegitimately? So with money laundering, it's always illegitimate. With terrorist financing, it's both legitimate and illegitimately. Okay, and so they have sympathizers. And you would see that in America, you know, when they have the elections and stuff like that, you see that persons were running for Congress or running to be the president, and in one day they would have gained $6 million. And then later on, they drop out of the race. So what really happens to that $6 million, you know? And they consider that like you know, failed states or failed safe havens or, you know, money that just sat there. And so nobody ever looks at what happened to the money. Did the sponsors come and get the money back? And so in America, they do a good job at tracking what happens. But in the Bahamas, once you don't win the government, they forget about you and how much money you collected, right? And where it went. There are a lot of taxes that are collected illegally, like persons would stand to the bottom of the Paradise Island Bridge and you need to go to work every day and they pull a gun on you and make you pay a tax to get to the Paradise Island Bridge, even though when you reach to the top, you still have to pay $2 more. So they illegally, you know, collect taxes. They do counterfeiting, they do robbery, they do fraud, drug trafficking, or people simply, you know, donate money. And so, like I said, a very popular question: what is their purpose? Materials, safe haven protection, training, weapons. How do they do it? Through robbery, failed states, extortion, fraud, kidnapping. A lot of people use charities in the Middle East. Okay? Could we imagine? The other day, we had to put the nonprofits law into place, and a lot of people were crying shame on the government because the government, part of the law that was implemented said that each of these nonprofits had to be registered. And then you had the banks put ads in the paper that if you were not registered with the Registrar General, and you cannot, if you do not come in and identify who your members or officers are, we're going to block your account. You can't do business. So let's look at our singing bishop who's feeding the people every Wednesday. Would he not be susceptible if somebody walked in and say, listen, there's $1 million, Bishop, I can give it to you to feed the people. You just send me 50,000 to this terrorist foundation. Would he know? Would he know how to handle that? Or would he just think that that was a blessing from the Lord? Because luckily somebody stepped in and helped him and registered his charity as a foundation. And he was able to continue because they had a certain date where they had registered or they had to stop operating as a nonprofit. It was a pandemic. He was feeding the people every Wednesday, but he could have also been charged $10,000 a day, every day that he continued to feed those people without being registered. But of course, people, you know, wrote into the newspaper and said, how could the government be so harsh? This is how, because terrorist, you know, foundations or terrorist people who want to support terrorism always use charities, or they use charities a lot of time. Okay. And so that was the importance of making sure that that nonprofit law went into place and people followed that. Okay, so Michelle, let's get the case 4 so we could get some awareness training and see exactly what Ms. Bullitt talking about. So let's get the case 4 on how do ISIS terrorists finance their attacks. And so, you know, we're gonna read up to the first 2.5 pages. Okay, and then we'll have a discussion about it. Go ahead, Michelle, case 4.
Actually, it was Melissa that volunteered to read. I want to jump in.
Sorry, you said something?
I said it was Melissa who volunteered to read.
Oh, sorry, Melissa, sorry.
Okay. Case 4, that's on page 65.
It's at the back of the book. It says case 4. It should be your last case. It says, how do ISIS terrorists finance their attacks? So it should be the yellow paper, or what you have some colored paper at the back of your book?
They don't have colored paper in this booklet. But I
Okay,
found
do
it.
you see at the
I
all the way
found
to
it.
the back? You can turn.
Yeah.
You found it?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so how do ISIS terrorists finance their attacks? Meeting in Turkey just 2 days after the horrific terrorist attacks in Paris, leaders of the G20 countries issued a statement condemning recent Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS attacks, and reaffirmed their commitment to combat terrorism. More specifically, the group of industrial nations recommitted itself to tackling the financing channels of terrorism, which begs the question, how does ISIS finance its international operations? Go on. What?
Yes, go on.
Okay. ISIS is primarily financed through a wide array of criminal activities, large and small, centered in the parts of Syria and Iraq that are under the group's control. ISIS steals livestock, sells foreign fighter passports, taxes minorities and farmers and truckers, runs a sophisticated extortion racket, kidnaps civilians for ransom payments, loots antiquities, and much more. It also makes about 40 million a month from illicit oil sales alone. But these sources primarily support the group's expensive state building and war-fighting enterprises, Stockholm, ranging from paying teachers' salaries and collecting the garbage, to bribing tribal leaders and paying fighters' salaries. There is, however, an entrepreneurial self-financing model that ISIS recruits and supporters around the world have been encouraged to use to fund either their travel to ISIS-controlled land or perhaps their attacks in the West. While it is too soon to state with any certainty how the Paris attacks were funded, the likelihood is that they were funded in whole or in part through local criminal activities or otherwise legal activities such as the use of state welfare benefits or taking out a loan. None of these would surprise, since authorities have been tracking the use of such funding schemes by prospective foreign terrorist fighters looking to join ISIS. And indeed, earlier this year, the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF report, identified several potential revenue streams for would-be foreign terrorist fighters, including robbery and drug trafficking, various social service payments, and unpaid loans. Some potential plotters or travelers took on short-term jobs to raise the money needed, while others simply drew on their savings or student loan accounts.
Okay, Melissa, stop right there for a second. Okay, Kalma, so are you going to the bank to get a loan and say that you need to pay school fees, but you're going to send this money to ISIS?
Okay.
That's what this is saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay, would you ever imagine something like that?
No, but when we issue the monies for the loan, don't we normally send it to the school, or that isn't that why we send it to whom they say they're paying?
Correct. And then we sometimes give them a limit of 5,000 in cash.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you're
so
correct.
they're gonna wire that money onto ISIS. Okay,
So then
that's what
as
this is saying.
So as a bank, how I mean, how do we protect ourselves when we do our due diligence? We collect the invoices and we, you know, do the world checks and the Google searches on the pays. But then at the end of the day, if it's uncovered that that's what was done with the monies, are we protected?
You are required to know your client, okay? And so once you know your client and you have sufficient information on file, then you're protected. However, a lot of times we do not know our client. We do not have sufficient information on file. We have expired documents. We are too afraid to ask some personal questions. And so therefore, you know, these things slip through the cracks. We don't know policy and procedure because we don't read. So again, you can only mitigate risk. You cannot eliminate it. So the way to protect yourself is to know your client, make sure the information on file is current, and ensure that you have sufficient information that would lead you to, if you know, if your customer was affiliated with these types of group, that you would pick it up in some of the information that you would have asked them. But like I say, a lot of times we are negligent because we don't know the policy. We don't even know what we're supposed to get from the client, and we definitely don't have it on file.
So, Ms.
Okay, so
Bullard,
just protect yourselves.
Sorry, I have a question. So, Ms. Bullard, if Ms. Culmore, they did their due diligence and like she said, they made the invoice payable to the school, but that individual somehow was able to still send the funds to ISIS, is Scotiabank in the clear at that point?
They are in the clear, but like I said, the person who is the account officer or who is the account manager would need to be able to explain what controls were in place to protect the institution. And you can only, like I said, you can only mitigate. A lot of times we get in problems because we cannot explain ourselves and we don't follow what the policy says and we don't have proper documentation. So if we simply do our jobs and do it properly, then we will be okay. And if we understand the position that we hold and the risk associated with it, we'll be okay. But we don't. And so that's why we are not okay. And that's why, you know, banks get charged with these various fees and negligence and so on. But once you can explain yourself, you'll be okay.
Why
Okay?
would persons agree to give terrorists funding?
Okay, because we grew up as primarily Christians. And so I don't know if you grew up in the days of the Benny Hinn and all those people that came on TV and our mothers used to send them money. And it's just a belief, it's ideological. It's just like, you know, they believe they are Muslims and they believe that they get, go to heaven and they get 10 virgins or and a house, their family becomes rich if they do suicide bombing or if they donate. And so it's just similar, it's ideology similar to Christianity. Nobody can turn you against. I mean, Benny Hinn now has a bad reputation. So what's the other guy who was very popular? TD Jakes. If somebody told you not to believe in TD Jakes, you would question that, right?
I would, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the same thing for them. They were born into this religion, and so therefore from birth they were trained that this is what they ought to do, and this is how, you know, a lot of them are very poor and suffering, and this is how you get your family out of poverty. So it's the belief system why they support this.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, and let's think about the people in Freeport and the people in Abaco. They suffered from Hurricane Dorian, and they was lined up, but they lost everything. And you know, social services, I hope, did an excellent job at trying to get them back on their feet. But let's just imagine that social service did put them on a program and give them rental assistance and give them food stamps. And they take the food stamps and send ISIS. And that's exactly what this is saying. Some people went and got a loan, and some people used their social services checks and payments. And in the Middle East, there's something called Hawala payments, and it's like the barter system. Back in the day, they don't use cash because, of course, they know all the controls are in place in the financial services sector. But Bin Laden still lived for 10 years, right? With all these controls in place. And you know that nowhere in no system bin Laden could have popped up or anybody affiliated with him. But how did he survive? He didn't, through the Hawala payments, somebody in China may have had cattle, and so they gave his family meat. Somebody else had lumber, so they got wood, and that's what they do, the exchange system, and that's how they circumvent the banking sector. Okay, so it worked because he lived for 10 years, right? And just like, and this is a perfect example, Andrea Lisa. Andrea Lisa, that hyphen in your name stops every system from flagging you if you committed a crime. But a lot of persons don't know that.
Wow.
And so at the end of the year, and you will learn this when you watch Dirty Money, this is how they were allowed to hold the money for the Mexican drug lords at HSBC. They hyphenated the name. They took the A off of Lisa. And so when the screening systems ran every night, and these are very major banks that have like 15,000 customers, the system would never flag it because the name is spelled wrong, or it's hyphenated, or it has a comma. So a part of my job at Royal Bank when I was the manager at the trust company was to count the number. We had 800 clients. I had to make sure that all 800 showed up on a report every month. And people thought it was, again, a waste of time. Why are you wasting your time? Because you would be surprised. The people with the hyphens and the commas and the wrong spellings, they're the ones with the hits. And like I say, watch Dirty Money and you will see that that's the way they were able to keep those drug lords and keep their money in the system. Okay, and so everybody's trying to figure out how did bin Laden survive? This is how. People getting loans and sending money. We'll continue on for us, Michelle, and we'll just stop at the bottom of this page again, just awareness of how this works and why they are so successful. Go ahead, Michelle.
Melissa, I hope you don't give my points
Don't worry
to Michelle.
about this. Melissa, sorry, Melissa, it's all for you. It's for you. It's for you. I'm so sorry. Don't worry about the pronunciation of the names. Because I can't even pronounce. So go ahead.
Consider a few examples. Michael Zehaf Bibu, who murdered a Canadian soldier before attacking Canadian Parliament buildings in October 2014, worked at one of the Alberta oil fields to raise money for his attempted travel to Syria. Petty crime has the potential to bring in sufficient funds for homegrown attack or transportation to a combat zone as well. There is the case of the 15-year-old boy in Montreal who held up a convenience store with a knife, stealing some $2,200 to pay for his plane ticket out of Canada. The Payne's father turned him into the police after finding the money in his son's bag. Or take the 4 men arrested in February in Brooklyn, New York for attempting to join ISIS. Some of their funds was supplied by a supporter who operated mall kiosks selling kitchenware and cell phones. According to the indictment, a round-trip ticket to Istanbul cost a mere $598. One of the defendants expected that he would not need to bring more than $400 to travel to Syria because he would not have any concerns in the land of the Islamic State. In Britain, the Metropolitan Police's Counterterrorism Command Unit has noted several cases where jihadists finance themselves through state-funded welfare payments. Most recently, Yahash Rashid used his student loans and educational grants to cover the travel costs for himself and 4 friends to go join ISIS in Syria via Morocco and Turkey. Closer to home, Christopher Cornell, who stands accused of plotting to detonate pipe bombs at the U.S. Capitol and shoot people as they ran away, simply saved money to conduct his attack, according to the FBI. In several cases, including the shooting in Canada, individuals whose travel to Syria was thwarted turned to deadly attacks at home instead, easily redirecting transportation funds toward homegrown acts of terrorism.
Great. Thank you so much, Melissa. Excellent. Great way to start off. Thank you for the initiative. So yeah, that's what's happening. You can simply save money. Again, these are our beliefs. We all believe in Benny Hinn and TD Jakes and Billy Graham, that's who I was thinking of, but nobody can tell you don't believe in Billy Graham, who's been around for 70 years, and so it's the same way for them, right? And so they have a common goal, and they are very loyal, and they network, they stick together, okay? And so, it's difficult for us to believe because, Bahamians, they always say we have this black crab syndrome and we don't stick together, but and we are always mad at immigrants, but we could look at the way the Chinese operate, and how the Africans operate, how the Haitians operate, in most countries in the world, there's a little China, there's a little Haiti, there's a little Africa, there's nowhere in the world there's a little Bahamas. Okay, nowhere, because if we all move to Atlanta, we don't want to see each other, and we ain't getting along, and we mad and we fighting. But what the Chinese do is they buy a 45-foot container of bread, and they send bread to all the Chinese stores, and so the Chinese have the market on bread. They have it on cream. They have it on various items. It's cheaper to go there, and people are gonna go where it's cheapest. Okay, so we ought to learn from their network and how they live with each other and how, they stay above the poverty line, because they go into all the ghettos and get all these dilapidated houses and turn them into mansions. Another thing that the Chinese do is that they live on 20% and they save 80. And I always beg my classes, I said, let's try it for the 5 weeks. Take 1 week, take one paycheck, save 20%. I mean, save the 80% and spend the 20. Just 1 week. And we can't even do it for 1 week. Okay. But if we truly want to change, standard of living and, our revenue, and we have to sacrifice. Okay, so try it and consider it and see what we can learn from, these other cultures. I say go to the civic organizations. People say, oh, I'm shy, I don't like people, I don't know. You aren't doing this to like people. You aren't going there looking for boyfriends. Don't go asking people to be godparents to your children. You aren't looking for a date. You are trying to build up your corporate career. You are trying to get into corporate Bahamas. You are trying to converse with the movers and shakers and put your name out there. I promise you, there are 25 people in or 70 now in this class, and one or two of the names are familiar. And so at the end of this class, all of us are going to be qualified. But who will I pick? The person I'm most familiar with. Because I know the name McHale, and I know the name Culmer, and I know the name Wilson. I say, I know they stand out already. Okay, and that's just how life works. This is life ain't fair or whatever, but when people know you, oh, I already know Crystal. So let me look at her CV. She gets the job. And that's how you move on. And in my next class that I had just prior to this one, we basically said, listen, people have to like you. If people don't like you, you could have all the accolades, every degree in the world. And if they don't like you, that's it. Okay, but you will go through, sometimes you will be on top of the mountain, sometimes you'll be in the valley. You have to know where you're at. When I was at Royal Bank, I was there for 16 years. I started off with persons I went to church with. They were family. They loved me. I loved them. They are part of my life. As I move all the way from retail, from Finco to Royal Bank into Trust, I had some supervisors that hated me, and I just had to stick it out. I was in the valley. I prayed my way through, and I got on the Trust. No human factor at all, no feeling. Come to work and do your work. But it's a glorified position. But it's no human factor. So you have to know where you are. Okay, so attend these seminars, introduce yourself if you truly want to build your corporate career. It's going to help you if people know you. It's going to help you if your network is strong. Okay. Any questions about terrorism? We understand why they do what they do and how they do it. be aware of the domestic terrorism in our country, and we'll start to think of ways to mitigate the risk so we could combat that 100% before we get anywhere near America. I go into sleep. Y'all ain't talking to me. I go into sleep. Keep me awake. Sinead, Sinead, I'm like, was it working? Sinead, your mic working yet? Tennille? Come on,
There's
give me some feedback.
responses in the chat.
Tennille, you there?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. There's some responses in the chat. One person,
No,
I think it's
Tennille,
Michelle, who said no.
go ahead.
I think Michelle said no when you answered the question, is everything clear? And I guess she's saying no. So it's like mud dull right now, I'm guessing.
Okay,
No, I meant
Michelle, you saying no.
No. I mean, I have
What's
no
your no for
questions.
both?
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle. I just got a no. So when she was asking the question, I assumed that's what you were referring to. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No, it actually, Ms. Bullard, you do a very good job of explaining it. Because you're right, it is ideological, and that's where it stems from. And the everyday person who's just going about their business trying to get by isn't really thinking along these lines, especially in, and I hate to say it, but the Western world where we don't think that way. So, you know.
Correct. Okay, so good. I'm glad it's clear as mud, and we stayed awake the whole class, and hopefully we can retain some of this information and create awareness. And so a lot of times we're not even aware. So if we're not aware, we can put controls in place and we can mitigate these risks that we face each day. Okay, so some of this information is a lot of information. Try your best to, you can't remember everything. You just must be information seeking and organized, and it's like I said, it's very achievable. Okay, so you get loads of information, and the important thing is comprehension, because it's very easy. A lot of people just talk, and they don't know what they're talking about. Then some people stand up and talk and they give you the wrong information. Okay, so it's important. Y'all can slow me down. You can stop me. No question is a dumb question. Let's comprehend, and then let's be able to go there and apply and protect ourselves. So when we are infiltrated, we no negligence for us. Okay? Be good? Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Talk back to me.
Everything is clear. I'm
No.
looking forward to watching the series.
Okay, great. Andrea Lisa, and you'll see just like how this hyphen, you could defraud a whole system with this hyphen. Okay?
You can cost me drop
That's just how they did it. But hopefully the way you have your accounts, they drop it because they ain't monitoring you. You could do anything and they wouldn't even know you exist, until you hit the news.
You're right. And at the bank with Royal, they don't have my name hyphenated.
Yeah, because their system, that little hyphen right there is what stops the screening. And so you can go back to your institutions and find out how you are screened. So normally when you walk into the bank to open the account, there is a feature called World Check, where you enter somebody's name and it'll tell you if they have any hits against them, if they have any charges, or if they're PEPs or politically exposed, or any sanctions or anything against them. And that's what World Check does. And so that World Check is only as good as today. Because right now, I'm a law-abiding citizen, Ms. Bullitt right here, teaching this compliance class, telling you how to stay out of jail. The pandemic come, I lose my job, I can't feed my children, I go and commit a crime. Okay, and so that's just how it happens. Okay, so an assessment is only as good as the day it's done. Right? So institutions then had to figure out a way, how do we then check Ms. Bullitt's name every night? And so there are systems in the back where checks names every night, as well as transactions. That's very expensive. A lot of companies don't pay for that. So you need to know what systems you have in place to protect you. How do I know Ms. Bullitt didn't commit a crime last night? What systems, and how does the system work? Okay, find that out. Just to know that I may not have, I have to do something manually. I worked at a bank that was closing down, and they had, all the funding had stopped, and they were still open. And so central bank said, so how are you going to monitor these customers every night? And so if you're no longer going to pay for the screening service every night, and they said, well, can we find a workaround? And central bank said, yes, well, your compliance officer, since you're winding down and you started off with 500 clients and you only have 200, your compliance officer can check the high-risk clients once a month. So once a month, I had to manually input their names into WordCheck and print it out, and then confirm to central bank, do an attestation that I actually did it. Okay, and so this is why I want you to find out, is there something that you have to do manually to protect yourself? Do you know? So find out, because again, that's a part of being negligent, because they can come in and say, well, Miss Bullitt been charging money laundering for 2 years. And you say, but nobody, our system don't flag our name and our system don't do this and that. Yeah, but don't you know better? Do you not know what the requirements of the law is to monitor your client? So there you go. So find out what the system does to help you. And it may not necessarily be your job. It may be the compliance department's job. But if you're an account manager, you are required to know your clients. And so you would need to know that compliance is getting those hits and alerts, and they are going to alert you should there be a hit against the client. Okay, and if they're not getting it, then you need to say, well, geez, what is the workaround? I have to find a manual way to monitor these clients, because monitoring is a statutory requirement. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. No comments, concerns, feedback? No? Okay, well, I am here. You can always reach me by email. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And at the beginning of class, I pray that you will have a productive week, and we'll do this again next week. So the key is now to unwind, relax, let this simmer into your heads, and hopefully you will be able to retain most of it. And then throughout the week, you will find some time to start to look at the newspaper. Don't try and read every article and overwhelm yourself, but do some of you read and come and share with the class next week, and try and Google a lot of the civic organizations. I don't know if anybody is in Toastmasters or Rotary who would like to invite the class. We normally have one person who invites the rest of the class, but all of them are online. And so you could just Google it. And like I said, network, get together. Who is identified the person? Who is it? Andrea Lisa, is it you who is the administrator for the group, for the WhatsApp chat?
No, it's Lavashti.
Lavashti. Okay, so please, everybody, did you put your numbers into the chat for Lavashti?
Yes.
Yes, okay, everybody who wants to be in the chat. And again, like I say, if you go online and you see an article, just drop it in the WhatsApp group. If you see a meeting, just drop the meeting time and what have you, and try to go together as a group, and so that it'll be less intimidating. But we want you to come back and share good information. So if you do choose Toastmasters, there's a word for the day. So you come back with the word for the day and you tell us the meeting, you tell us who the speakers are, and you tell us that you introduced yourself and what you learned and why you found it beneficial. Okay, and that's for Kiwanis, Toastmasters, or, there are many industry briefings, and because organizations want to be good corporate they want to be socially responsible, they pay for like a whole table at a Baco convention and nobody shows up. So as you just go to HR and say, hey, the next time you'll pay for a seminar and nobody goes, I'd like to go, and you dress up and you introduce yourself. Or the Attorney General's office, you can follow them, or your regulator, they have free lunch and learns or what have you. The Securities Commission, they have a complete media area and publication area, and you can watch a lot of seminars and briefings online. Okay, and all of that will, you know, give you good information and help you make the right decisions. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much.
Okay, thank you too. Y'all take care. And we'll see you next week.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye.